My wife cheated on me with her boss, then forged my signature to sell our house for $350, $0. Now she's claiming I owe her half and taking me to court over it. I never thought I'd be the guy sitting here, writing about how my wife, Emily, turned out to be nothing but a lying, cheating bitch. The thing is, everything seemed normal at first. We'd been married for 8 years, and honestly, I thought we had a decent life. Nothing fancy, but stable. I worked as an accountant, she was a marketing exec. We had a nice little house in the suburbs, 2 kids, good jobs, but all that changed in a matter of weeks. It started subtly. Small things. She'd be on her phone more than usual, hiding her screen when I walked into the room. She'd make excuses about work emails or talking to her sister. I didn't think much of it at first. I mean, everyone gets busy, right? But then I noticed her acting weird around me. She'd get defensive if I asked about her day, change the subject quickly, or just give me this glazed-over look like she was somewhere else entirely. One night, I came home early from work because I wasn't feeling well. I decided to surprise her and the kids. As I pulled into the driveway, I saw her car parked outside, but there was another one I didn't recognize. My stomach sank. I figured maybe a friend was over, but then I saw her through the window, laughing, touching this guy's arm, leaning in so close I could see her lips moving. My heart stopped. That was her boss, Mark. I knew him. He was a smooth-talking asshole with a reputation for being a player. And there she was, acting like they were lovers. I froze outside, not sure what to do. I wanted to storm in and confront her, but I also felt like I couldn't believe my eyes. Emily and Mark together. That was just a bad joke, right? But no, the evidence was right there. I watched her kiss him goodbye, then slip into her house like nothing was wrong. I stayed in my car for what felt like hours, trying to process what I'd just seen. The next day, I decided I couldn't ignore it anymore. I started digging. I checked her phone, nothing obvious at first, but then I found a string of texts between her and Mark, talking about meeting up after hours, making plans, joking about how hot she looked in her new dress. It was clear she was cheating. I also noticed that she'd been taking longer work trips, always claiming she was at conferences or client meetings. But I found receipts for dinners, hotel stays, and secret parking lot rendezvous. What hurt the most was realizing she'd been lying to me for months. She always said she loved me, that I was her everything. Meanwhile, she was sneaking around with her boss, planning secret sex sessions and probably more. And she had the nerve to tell me she was just working late when I asked her about the strange absences. The betrayal cut deep, sharper than I ever thought possible. I felt sick, angry, humiliated, like I'd been played for a fool. But the worst part, I wasn't just devastated emotionally. No, she'd also been secretly forging my signature on documents. I found out when I tried to access our bank account, and suddenly there were withdrawals, transfers, and a suspicious sale of our house. Turns out, she sold it for $350, $0, without telling me. I couldn't believe it. She forged my name to sign the papers, and now she was claiming I owed her half of the money. That's when I realized this was no longer just an affair. It was a full-blown scam, a setup to screw me over financially. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. My entire life, my trust, my marriage, everything I believed in, gone. I was furious but also broken. How could she do this? How could she lie so effortlessly, cheat behind my back, and then turn around and try to take what's mine? I knew I had to do something, but I wasn't sure what yet. All I knew was that my world had fallen apart, and I was staring at the ruins of what I thought was a happy marriage. After I found out about her affair and the forged signature, everything changed. It was like waking up in a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. I stayed up all night, going over every detail, every lie, every secret she'd been hiding. The betrayal was so deep I couldn't even cry anymore, just this numb, sinking feeling in my chest. I kept asking myself how. I could have missed all the signs, how I didn't see it coming. But the truth was, I'd been blind because I loved her, because I trusted her. The next morning, I decided I needed to confront her. I didn't want to wait to let things fester. I still remembered how she spun her lies every time I caught her in a small fib. She was good at it, too good. I needed to hear her admit it, or at least try to explain herself. So I waited until she came home from her conference the day before and I blocked her path in the living room. "Emily," I said, voice trembling with rage and hurt, "I know about you and Mark. I saw the texts. I know what you've been doing behind my back. And I found out about the house, how you forged my signature, how you sold it without telling me. Explain this." She looked at me with this icy, bitchy smile that made my blood boil. "Oh, come on, John," she said, rolling her eyes. "You're overreacting. It's not as bad as you think. Mark's just a friend and the house thing. You're making a mountain out of a molehill. I was just trying to get us ahead financially, you know. You're so paranoid all the time. Maybe if you paid more attention to your job, you wouldn't be so clueless." That was her typical response. Blame me, deny everything, act like she's the victim. But I wasn't buying it. I'd seen too much. I pulled out the texts, the bank statements, the forged papers. Her face flickered with a mix of anger and panic. She tried to tell me that the texts were just flirtatious banter, that there was nothing serious with Mark. She claimed she was just having fun, that she never planned to leave me, that I was overreacting because I was insecure. I didn't buy her bullshit anymore. How could she lie so effortlessly? How could she sit there acting innocent while I was unraveling? I felt my stomach turn. The betrayal wasn't just emotional anymore. It was like a punch to the gut every time I thought about her lying, cheating, and stealing from me. I wanted to scream at her, to shake her, but I held back. I knew that whatever I said, she'd twist it, deny it, spin it into some victim story. In the days that followed, I started to see just how much she'd manipulated everything. She'd been controlling the money, forging my signature, planning to take everything I'd worked for. The house, the savings, everything. She kept telling me I owed her half of the sale, claiming that she was entitled because she worked so hard on the house, despite the fact that she secretly sold it behind my back. I felt a mix of rage and despair. I had trusted her for so long, built a life with her, and now I was left with nothing but a pile of lies and a shattered marriage. The emotional toll was brutal. I'd wake up in the middle of the night, replaying her betrayal over and over. I'd see her face, her sneering smile, and I'd feel the sting of knowing she'd lied, cheated, and stole from me. But I also knew I couldn't let her get away with it. Not without a fight. I started looking into my legal options, talking to a lawyer who specialized in family law and scams. I needed to understand what rights I had, what I could do about the forged signatures, the sale of the house, and her claim that I owed her money. It was clear she was trying to pull a fast one, trying to turn the situation around and make me the bad guy. But I wasn't going down without a fight. I'd spent years building a life with her, and I wasn't going to let her just walk away with everything, especially after she'd betrayed me so badly. The worst part was knowing I'd probably never trust her again, never see her the same way. That betrayal had cut so deep, I wondered if I'd ever be able to look at her without feeling this burning anger. I decided I'd fight for what's mine, my house, my money, my dignity. Because I knew she was counting on me to back down, to accept her lies, to just let her take whatever she wanted. But I wasn't going to do that. I'd come too far, loved her too much, and now I was determined to see her pay for what she'd done. After I started gathering evidence and talking to the lawyer, I realized just how deep Emily's deception went. She wasn't just cheating on me, she was actively trying to screw me over financially. The forged signatures, the sale of our house, everything was part of her plan to take everything I had worked for. I felt a cold fury building inside me. I couldn't believe I'd been so blind, so trusting, while she was plotting behind my back. The lawyer explained that I had grounds to contest the sale, especially since the signature was forged. She also told me I could file for divorce, and there was a good chance I could get back control of the house or at least get a fair share of the proceeds. But the most shocking thing was discovering that Emily had been claiming I owed her half of the sale money, something she had no legal right to do, especially since she forged my signature. That was a lie, and I was determined to prove it. I decided to confront Emily again, but this time with the lawyer present. I wanted her to understand that I wasn't just going to roll over and accept her lies anymore. When she walked into the room, her bitchy smirk was still there, but she looked nervous. She knew I had evidence, and she knew I was going to let her manipulate me anymore. "Emily," I said, voice steady but cold, "I know about your lies, your affair, and the forged signatures. This isn't just a betrayal, it's a crime. You forged my name to sell our house, and you're trying to steal from me. I've got proof, and I'm ready to fight this legally." She scoffed, crossing her arms. "Oh, please, John, you're overreacting. I did what I had to do. You've been so distant, so inattentive. I needed to do something to secure our future. And the affair, that's just sex. It's not a big deal. You're making it into something it's not." I stared at her, feeling my blood boil. "It's not just sex, Emily. It's lying, cheating, and now theft. You forged my signature, sold the house without telling me, and now you're claiming I owe you money. That's fraud, and I have the proof." Her face twisted into a sneer. "You're just jealous because I found someone better than you. Mark's successful, charming, and he treats me like a queen. You're just a boring accountant who's too insecure to see what's good for him. I don't owe you anything. I'm done playing your little game." That was the moment I realized how much she'd lied to herself, how she thought she could get away with everything, but I wasn't going to let her. I handed her a folder with all the evidence, screenshots, bank statements, the forged documents, and her face drained of color. She stammered, trying to spin some bullshit, but I cut her off. "You're done, Emily. This is over. I'm taking back what's mine, and I'm going to make sure you're held accountable for everything you've done. You can lie all you want, but I have the proof, and I'm not backing down." She looked furious, but I saw a flicker of panic in her eyes. She knew her game was up. I felt a strange mixture of relief and anger. I had finally taken control, but it was just the beginning of a long legal battle. I knew she'd try to fight me, to twist the facts, to manipulate the court. But I was prepared. I had the truth on my side, and I was ready to fight for my rights. In the days that followed, I filed the paperwork to contest the house sale and to seek a divorce. I also started the process of recovering the money she had stolen through the forged signatures. It was clear she was trying to stall, to buy time, but I wasn't going to let her. Every day I felt more determined. I had lost trust in her, but I hadn't lost my resolve. The emotional toll was brutal. I'd go from feeling angry to feeling numb, then back again. The betrayal had shattered my sense of security. I kept asking myself how I could have been so blind, so trusting, and why she had to destroy everything we built. But I also knew I had to move forward, to take back control of my life. I owed it to myself and to my kids to get through this mess. I just didn't know how much worse it would get before it got better. The legal process dragged on more than I expected, and honestly, each day felt like a new punch to the gut. Emily wasn't just stubborn. She was relentless in her lies and manipulations. Every time I thought I had her cornered, she'd come back with some new excuse or fake tears, trying to sway the court or make me look like the bad guy. She claimed I was a terrible husband, that I neglected her, that I didn't deserve the house, the money, or even her. But I knew the truth. She'd been planning all this for months, maybe longer. One day I found out she had hired a lawyer who was clearly on her side. The lawyer kept trying to spin her stories, claiming I was abusive, paranoid, or just plain crazy. She even tried to argue that I had mistreated Emily to justify her actions. I knew that was pure garbage, but hearing it made my blood boil. It was her way of trying to sway the court, to make me look like the villain while she played the victim. I couldn't believe how far she was willing to go to save her own skin. Meanwhile, Emily kept up her bitchy attitude. She'd throw little digs, trying to make me feel guilty. "You're just jealous because I found someone who actually cares about me," she sneered one day during a court hearing. "Mark treats me like a queen, and you're just a boring, insecure accountant. Maybe if you'd been more attentive, I wouldn't have had to look elsewhere." That comment made my stomach turn. She was so good at twisting the truth, making me out to be the bad guy and herself the victim. But I wasn't falling for it. I had the proof of her affair, the forged signatures, the secret sales. I knew she was lying, and I had witnesses who could testify to her manipulations. I also had the bank statements showing the withdrawals and transfers she made without my knowledge. It was clear she was trying to steal everything I had, and she was desperate enough to lie, cheat, and manipulate her way through the court process. The emotional toll was brutal. Every day I felt like I was losing a little more of myself. I'd wake up feeling sick, dreading what new lies she'd come up with. I'd get angry, then numb, then frustrated all over again. It was like fighting a ghost. She was everywhere, in every document, every court appearance, every lie she told. I started questioning everything I believed about our marriage, about trust, about love. How could someone I loved so much turn into this manipulative, vindictive person? Despite all this, I knew I had to stay strong. I couldn't let her win. I hired a private investigator to gather more evidence, photos, videos, recordings, things I could use to prove her scheming. I also worked with my lawyer to prepare for the final hearing. I wanted to make sure the court saw her for who she really was: a liar, a cheat, a thief. One thing that kept me going was the thought of reclaiming my life. I'd been living in constant fear that she'd take everything I had, that she'd ruin me financially and emotionally. But now I felt a small spark of hope. I was starting to see a way out, a way to get justice. I wasn't just fighting for my house or my money. I was fighting to restore my dignity, to prove that I wasn't going to be a victim of her schemes. The worst part was the sense of betrayal from someone I'd trusted with my life. Emily had been so bitchy and manipulative, trying to gaslight me into thinking I was crazy or paranoid. But I had the evidence, and I was determined to make her pay for what she'd done. I knew the court would see through her lies eventually, and I just had to hold on until then. Every day felt like a battle, but I was ready to fight to the end. The courtroom days were the hardest. Every time I saw Emily sitting there, her smug attitude barely hiding her desperation, I felt like my entire world was tilting on its axis. She still tried her usual tricks, throwing tantrums during hearings, making snide remarks, trying to manipulate the judge with her fake tears and bitchy smirk. But I had the evidence, and I made damn sure it was all laid out clearly. My lawyer did a good job, but I knew the real battle was in how convincingly Emily could lie and spin her stories. She kept insisting she was the victim, claiming she only sold the house because I was neglecting her and the kids, that she was just trying to secure our future. She even threw in some tears, saying she did it for us, trying to guilt me into giving her half of the sale. But I had the forged signatures, the bank withdrawals, and the secret texts proving she'd planned this all along. One of the most infuriating moments was when she stood up and told the court, "John has always been controlling and insecure. I needed to take control of my own life. I was just trying to make things better for everyone." That's when I lost it. I couldn't hold back anymore. I looked at her and said, "You lied, cheated, and forged my signature. You stole my house, and now you're trying to make me look like the bad guy. You're damn right I'm insecure because I trusted you, and you betrayed that trust in the worst way possible." She shot back with her usual bitchy smirk. "You're just mad because I found someone who actually cares about me. Mark treats me like a queen, and you're just a boring accountant. Maybe if you'd been better in bed or paid more attention, I wouldn't have needed to look elsewhere." That comment made my blood boil. I wanted to yell at her, to call her out on all her lies, but I knew I had to stay composed. I had the evidence, I had the truth, and I was determined to make her pay. The judge listened carefully, flipping through the documents I presented proof of: the forged signatures, the sale of the house, the illicit texts, and the bank statements. I saw her squirm under the weight of it all. When the judge finally looked up and asked Emily if she had anything to say, she hesitated, then spat out, "This is all a setup. John's just bitter because I left him for someone better. He's jealous, insecure, and trying to ruin me." That was the last straw for me. I stood up and addressed the court directly. "Your Honor, this woman has lied, manipulated, and stolen from me. She forged my signature, sold our house behind my back, and now she's claiming I owe her money that she has no right to. I just want what's fair, what's mine. I want justice for the betrayal, the lies, and the theft." I saw her face twist with anger, but I didn't care. I knew I had the truth on my side. The court took a long time to deliberate, but I could see the wheels turning. I felt a strange mixture of relief and exhaustion. I'd fought hard, and I knew this wasn't over yet, but I'd made a significant step forward. In the aftermath, I started the process of reclaiming my life. The court ordered Emily to return the money from the house sale, and I got sole custody of the kids. She was ordered to pay restitution for the forged signatures, and her claims of owing me half of the sale were dismissed. But the emotional scars, those would take longer to heal. Looking back, I realize how much I learned from this nightmare. Trust is fragile and betrayal cuts deep. But I also learned that even in the darkest moments, standing up for yourself, fighting for what's right can make a difference. Emily's bitchy manipulations didn't break me. They made me more determined. I'm still healing, but I know I'll come out of this stronger. And if there's one thing I want anyone reading this to know, trust your instincts, keep your eyes open, and never let anyone steal what's yours. The aftermath of everything was a whirlwind I didn't see coming. The court's decisions finally put a nail in her schemes, but the emotional damage lingered longer than I expected. I got my house back, or at least the value of it, and the court ordered Emily to pay restitution for forging my signature and selling our home behind my back. The kids stayed with me, and I started trying to piece my life back together, piece by piece. But trust, that's a different story. I won't lie. There were days I felt broken, like the betrayal had hollowed out a part of me I'd never get back. I kept asking myself how I missed all the signs, how Emily managed to lie so effortlessly for so long. The realization that someone you loved and trusted could be so manipulative changes you. It makes you question everything. I had to learn to rebuild my sense of security, to find joy in small things again, and to remember that I was still here, still standing. Looking back, I see how her bitchy, manipulative attitude was her weapon, blaming me, gaslighting me, trying to make me doubt myself. She lied to everyone, spun stories about how she was the victim, how I was the controlling one. But I learned to see through her facade. I learned that sometimes the people closest to you can turn out to be the biggest enemies. And the hardest lesson, that trust, once broken, is nearly impossible to fully restore. The experience changed me. I've become more cautious, more aware of the warning signs. I don't take anything for granted anymore, especially not trust. I've also become more protective of my kids. They deserve to see their father standing tall after all this chaos. I've started therapy, not just for the emotional scars, but to rebuild my confidence. Because, honestly, I felt like I'd lost a part of myself in this mess. And about Emily. She's still trying to fight for some sort of custody or financial settlement, but I've made it clear that I won't let her manipulate or steal from me anymore. I've learned to stand my ground. I've also learned that revenge, in some ways, isn't about petty payback, but about reclaiming your life and dignity. I won't let her define me by her lies or her betrayal. Now I focus on moving forward. I've started fresh, with new boundaries, new perspectives. I know she's out there, still bitchy and manipulative in her own way, but I refuse to let her ruin what little peace I have left. I've got my kids, my health, and a renewed sense of purpose. I tell myself every day that I deserve better, that I'm stronger than her lies. In the end, I want anyone reading this who's been betrayed to know this. Trust is fragile, and sometimes people will do anything to get what they want. But you have to stand up for yourself. Fight for what's right. Don't let anyone, especially someone you loved, take everything from you without a fight. Because even in the darkest times, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. You just have to find it, no matter how bitchy, manipulative, or broken the person who betrayed you might be. And I've learned that, no matter how bad things get, I'm capable of rebuilding. I'm capable of healing. And most importantly, I'm capable of moving on, stronger than I ever thought I could be.